Hello and welcome back. Now, in this lecture, we're going to look at the partner's liability and their authority to enter into contracts on behalf of the partnership. So it follows on from agency law that we've already looked at. So first thing to note here is that partners are jointly and severally liable for the debts of their fellow partners. Now, first of all, we need to look at what that means. So let's imagine we've got two partners. We've got Bill and we've got Ben. Okay, now if I want to bring an action against the Bill and Ben partnership, I could choose whether to sue the partnership as a whole, i.e. Bill and Ben jointly, or Bill or Ben. Now, in reality, I would look at their assets and think, well, actually, Bill looks like he's more likely to be able to pay up. I'll sue Bill. Now, if I win in my claim against Bill, he may then have a right of recovery to try and reclaim some of that debt from Ben. However, as far as the third party dealing with the partnership is concerned, that's all they need to worry about. Who has the assets? Who should they sue? Now, there's two key rules to learn about partnerships. So the first one here, each partner is an agent of the partnership, which means he can enter into contracts in the name of the partnership, and his fellow partners. So when he does enter into a contract in the partnership name, his fellow business partners will be bound by that contract. But it has to be for the purposes of the business of the partnership. So it has to be a contract which would seem to be within the normal day-to-day activities of the partnership. Now, the only time when that contract won't be binding is if that partner actually has no authority to act for the firm, and the person that he's dealing with knew that he had no authority, or that person didn't know that he was a partner. Now, if you think about this, it's typical agency law. It's looking at protecting the third party who enters into a contract with the partnership. If they are entitled to believe that they're dealing with a partner, and they do believe it's a partner, and they believe that he's entering into a contract to bind the business, then that third party will be protected, and they'll be able to enforce their contract. Now, the rule is slightly more lenient where a partner pledges the credit of the firm. So if a partner was to go out and actually buy something on credit in the name of the partnership, then the firm will not be bound unless that partner actually has express authority to do so. Okay, so that sort of turns the tables slightly if it's for goods bought on credit. Now, if that feels a little bit confusing, have a look at this example, because this should make it much clearer to you. So we've got Faith, George and Harbhajan and Ingrid, all partners in an animal hospital, all authorised to carry out the business of being a vet on behalf of the practice. Partners have assigned Faith the position of hospital manager with authority to purchase medicines and other supplies that the hospital needs. So at that point there, Faith has got actual authority. The hospital has approved suppliers who've been informed that the only person with authority to buy goods on behalf of the practice is Faith. So they know that Faith is the only one who can enter into binding contracts. One day, Faith was perusing a catalogue from a supplier and saw an advert for a new drug. One of the hospital's approved suppliers was advertising for hospitals to participate in a drugs trial in respect of this drug in return for a number of free drugs. Faith rang the supplier and volunteered the hospital for the drugs trial. George and Harbhajan and Ingrid are very unhappy that Faith made this commitment without consulting them, and are wondering if they can avoid the commitment on the grounds that Faith was not authorised to bind them in a contract involving drugs which had not yet been subject to clinical trials. So in this case, George and Harbhajan and Ingrid are saying, well, actually, Faith did have actual authority, but only to buy approved drugs, not to buy something that hasn't yet been licensed. So what do we think about that? Well, you've got to put yourself in the shoes of the third-party supplier. They were dealing with Faith, and they know that Faith is a partner in the animal hospital. They know that she has approval to buy drugs on behalf of the hospital. So I think it's very likely there that the partnership will be bound by the contract, because as far as the third party is concerned, Faith appeared to have authority. It's possible that the other partners may have an action against Ingrid personally for exceeding her authority, but that would be an internal dispute. In addition, Ingrid has recently placed a large order on behalf of the partnership with a non-approved supplier. Because it was offering a good deal on the drug, which the hospital uses regularly, The supplier was aware that she was a partner in the hospital and therefore entered into the contract. Faith is very annoyed and wishes to cancel the contract because she's concerned that the hospital will not have sufficient need of the drug and that too much will go to waste. Okay, so let's have a look at this bit. So Ingrid isn't the partner who normally orders drugs, but this wasn't the normal supplier. The normal supplier would have known they couldn't accept an order from Ingrid and therefore the partnership wouldn't be bound. But in this case, the supplier knew that Ingrid was a partner, knew that the animal hospital was in the business of treating animals and therefore needed drugs. So it was obviously in the ordinary course of the business. And therefore, once again, the partnership will be bound. Let's have a look at the next bit. Faith's commitment to the drugs trial, participating in the drugs part trial, while not the direct business of the partnership, is sufficiently connected with the business of the partnership to be considered. Okay, so just what we've got left there now is just an explanation of the discussion we've just had. So if you want to pause the recording and read that through, please do. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next bit. So in this section, we need to look at the partner's liability for the partnership debts. So let's draw a little timeline here. So let's assume that our character joins the partnership here and leaves the partnership here. Now, he's not going to be liable for anything which happens before he joins the partnership. Okay, unless he actually signs some sort of agreement or undertaking to accept pre-existing liabilities. Anything that happens whilst he is a partner, he's clearly going to be jointly and severally liable for. So he'll have to contribute to any debts that are incurred whilst he is a partner in the firm. The situation gets a little bit confusing though when he leaves the firm, because he's still going to be liable to anyone who knew he was a partner and didn't know that he had retired. Okay, now that's a bit of a sticky situation to be in. So what partners generally do when they retire is they send out a notice to all their clients. So they'll send a letter saying, by the way, Fred has retired after many years of good service. That way, all the current clients will know that he's no longer a partner and therefore wouldn't be able to hold him to any contracts. You'd also want to remove your name from the letterhead, because if a letter goes out and your name is still on there as a partner, that's called holding out, and you're giving the impression that you are still a partner in this partnership. The other thing you might do is you might try to get an indemnity from the other partners. Now, that won't protect you from a third party trying to sue you, but if a third party was to take action against you, you could then turn around to the ongoing partners and say, remember, you agreed to reimburse me if I was held liable for any partnership debts which arose after I'd left. Okay, so you have to be quite careful when you retire from a partnership to make sure that you do leave any potential liability behind. Have a look at IQ 24 now. Just pause the recording for a second whilst you read it through. Okay, so hopefully you came up with the answer D. Key points in there were that although Colway has retired, they used the letterhead with his name on it, so they've held him out as if he were a partner in the business, so the third party can assume that he was still liable under this contract. Also, although Alice exceeded her authority, she was only able to send 10,000 and she spent 18.5, the third party didn't know of that restriction and knew that she was a partner in the business. So therefore, D would be the answer. Now, finally, in this recording, what about the dissolution of a partnership? What happens when you want to wind it up? Well, you're not tied to it forever. So if there is a provision in your partnership agreement that sets out what happens when someone wants to leave the partnership, then you'll follow that. But in addition to that, the Partnership Act provides that partners are automatically dissolved on the death or bankruptcy of a partner, expiry of a fixed term partnership. So you might have a 2-year partnership, and at the end of the second anniversary, the partnership will automatically be wound up. And the end of a joint venture. So perhaps if you have a partnership to develop a building site estate, once it's finished, that will be the end of the partnership. If it becomes illegal, so if you had a partnership, for example, to supply cigarette machines to pubs, that's no longer something that you can do, so that partnership would be dissolved. A partner can just give notice. So, dear partners, I no longer wish to be in business with you. I would like to dissolve our partnership. And also the court can order for a partnership to be dissolved, just in the same way we did with the company, if it's just unequitable to do so. Now, usually the partnership agreement will cover the situation where somebody wants to leave. So if somebody did leave or gave notice of resignation, the partnership could continue, but without that person. But if you don't have that, as soon as the partnership is dissolved, that's it. The other partners would have to start all over again with a new business. It's worth just noting that point at the bottom there as well, about if a partnership has defaulted on a debt, then creditors can go to court and apply for the partnership to be wound up. Okay, I think we'll leave that there, and we'll come back and have a look at limited liability partnerships. It's not a big topic, so don't worry too much. We'll get down to it quite quickly. See you soon.